Prospects will no doubt be a hotly debated topic at their party conference. Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to Yorkshire and Humber Euro MP Edward McMillan-Scott, who defected to the Liberal Democrats from the Conservative Party earlier this year. He was unhappy with David Cameron's decision to pull his MEPs out of the main centre-right grouping in the European Parliament. Now, this will be Mr McMillan-Scott's first party conference as a Lib Dem, and I asked him for his thoughts on an electoral pact with the Tories.
Well, I've read parts of the book on which this is based by Nick Bowles, a very entertaining new Tory MP. But really it is a sort of safety pact for the existing MPs. In other words, they wouldn't stand against each other. I don't think it has much merit. And I think also that what lies behind it is a sort of a fear factor that the two parties will begin to overlap, so that the left wing of the Tory party will go to the Liberal Democrats and some Lib Dems will go to the Tories. Very few, I would have thought. But, you know, all of us have bits of another party in us. I mean, I was always a liberal conservative. Now I'm a conservative liberal. So I can see some of the merits in the argument, but I think as far as having an electoral pact is concerned, it's a bit premature.
So you accept there is clear blue water, or in your case, clear yellow water, between the two parties on many issues. Now, do you believe those differences could cause problems for the coalition further down the line?
Well, I've just been at the Liberal conference, and there's a very, very positive atmosphere there. I saw Nick Clegg this morning. He's extremely buoyant, very confident about the coalition, and I'm convinced it's going to work. I think it is the only answer. I think David Cameron is, as a politician, rather content-free, but he did see as a tactician the opportunity to grab Nick Clegg's offer of a coalition, and it seems to be working satisfactorily. But there are, of course, areas where there are differences, especially facing the enormous economic problems we now do because of the failure of the Labour government. But I think on issues like education, there are going to be tensions. On tuition fees, there'll be tensions. On defence, there'll be tensions. But then there are, within each party, be it the Labour Party or the Conservative Party in government, there have always been tensions on those things. So I think the coalition is a way of working forward, and I think it's, by and large, apart from the Labour Party, most people I talk to like it and want to see it succeed.
In a newspaper article today, you described the Conservatives as a competitive bunch in pinstripes and red braces who just want the status quo. Now, you're not being very helpful to Nick Clegg, are you, by criticising his partners in the coalition?
I'm characterising some parts of the Conservative Party. I like the Conservative Party. I was in it for many, many years, and I've got very many friends in the Conservative Party. But on Europe, I took issue with them, especially with Cameron's new allies in Europe. And incidentally, I think he could actually build a new alliance in Europe with the Liberals, not with the old Conservative and Christian Democrats. But that's another story. No, I think there are parts of the Conservative Party which I would like to see drift off and become members of UKIP. I've always felt there are people in the Tory party, especially the Eurosceptics, extreme Eurosceptics, who should be in the UKIP rather than in the Tory party. So you could say the Liberals, you can characterise them, but very few people wearing ties in Liverpool this weekend. David Cameron would be quite at home there.
You're calling for a new alliance between the Liberals and Conservatives in Europe, but the fact remains that's not what the British people voted for. In the last European elections in the Yorkshire and Humber region, twice as many people voted for the Conservatives than voted for the Liberal Democrats. Isn't it fair to say people don't want closer ties with Europe?
Well, I'm supporting the coalition, so I'm perfectly content where I am, and I think it's a very good outcome. But as far as what people vote for in a European election, it's a bit of a mishmash. And people did, by voting Conservative, vote for some sort of coalition in Europe, which turned out to be, in my view, a disaster. And most commentators regard David Cameron's new European alliance, as Nick Clegg said during one of the leaders' debates, as a bunch of nutters, homophobes, anti-Semites and climate change deniers. Well, there are some of those people in that alliance, which is why I opposed it.
But the fact is there are still huge differences between the two parties on many issues, such as immigration, such as the proposed cap on immigration from outside the EU. Now, not many Lib Dems support that policy, do they?
We'll have to see how these things emerge. I mean, this is relatively early days. Immigration is an issue which is very divisive indeed within all parties. There have been problems about this, but I think the coalition is the best way of working it through. After all, Tim, I'm used to coalition politics in Europe. Over 25 years in the European Parliament, you have to thrash things out with your opponents. They've got to listen to your arguments, you listen to theirs, and you come to some sort of consensus in the end. It's the way things get done sensibly.
Well, that was Edward McMillan-Scott speaking to me